So today is the beginning of a new month, which starts a new series. And the series for August is Jesus Changed Thoughts. So Cindy, came to me and asked me if I was interested in doing a service. And I was really excited. And of course, I jumped up and said, yeah, I would love to. She couldn't tell me at the time what the series was because she was waiting for her download from God. And God works on His time. So when she received what it was we were to speak about, she called me back up and said that I would be talking about thoughts or things. I thought, cool, I can do that, sure. So I started thinking about, okay, thoughts or things, Where do I start? So I decided to look up thoughts, definition. And when I looked it up, I found out that thoughts are plans, ideas, opinions produced by mental activity. So it's energy. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. What else can I find? So I looked a little further. And I found some really interesting scientific facts that I'd just like to read to you for a minute. It says, the human brain is composed of approximately 100 billion nerve cells called neurons. And each one of these neurons has trillions of connections called synapses. On average, each connection transmits about 1 signal per second. But there are specialized synapses that can transmit up to 1,000 signals per second. Now, I thought, that's amazing that our brain works this fast. I mean, can you picture that? All these synapses just firing back and forth in your head. And I thought, oh my gosh, with all those thoughts, how could my world be as stable as it is? There's no way. Well, if you think about it, all those connections, I started thinking, how many connections approximately? And I started adding it up, and I came up with a number. It's called a decillion.
Right.
Okay, a decillion thoughts per second. Now that's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. You got that? I mean, our brain is just going crazy up there. A 1 followed by 33 zeros. And now, granted, some of these thoughts do nothing more than support our system, our body system, our heart pumping, blood flowing through our veins, our nervous system firing, and all that's, going on without us really having to consciously think of it. But then there's other things that happen, like in the morning when we wake up. You wake up and you inhale, take a deep breath to the new day, and you open your eyes, and maybe stretch your arms a little bit. All those actions happen because you choose. You think of it, You turn and you swing your legs off the bed. You're using your legs with thought energy. You walk out to the kitchen and you pour yourself a drink. You're using your arms. You take the drink. Maybe you're hungry, so you fix yourself some breakfast, something to eat. You use your jaw to chew it up, and we swallow it, and then our digestive system starts. So we're processing all this stuff. We're fueling our body up for the day to take us through. And as that energy processes from the food that we've just put into it, we've now fueled our body up for the day. And the synapses in our brain start firing even quicker and quicker. And now they're running like crazy. And our thoughts go to the day and what's ahead, I've got to drive over to Mary's house, and I've got to drop off the cat at the vet. I need to be to work by this time. I've got that report that's due by noon. And I need to call my mother and talk to her for a minute. So we start thinking about all this, and we've got this, and we've got a game plan, what we're going to do. We've strategized, we have the order that it's going to happen in, and we start to head out that door for the day. But you know what? We haven't set an intention. We haven't stopped and taken a moment to set the intention of what we want to do for the day. What is in our highest and greatest good? So, getting through the day without setting our intention has kind of become second thought. It's kind of taken a back burner to everything else that's going on in life. And we've become pretty good at getting through a day without setting our intentions. We kind of muddle through it. But as metaphysicians, we know that our energy follows our thoughts. So what have we learned? If our energy follows thoughts, there's another saying, energy follows thoughts and intention is the key to the universe. So the thoughts that we create throughout the day support us, and it creates our world. We create the experiences that we want to have. We use our mind to process all this. And if we haven't set our intention, our mind is creating these things for us throughout the day. And if our mind is creating the things that are being produced in matter, who's really in charge? Ego. Our egos are in charge of our thoughts, our creations. And ego is the aspect of ourselves that helps us to maneuver throughout the world. It's very important. You know, it shows us how to get through matter. It helps us make decisions during the day on, is this hot? Is this cold? Am I warm? But do you really want it in charge of your thoughts? And to get a better idea of what I'm talking about, I'd like you to take a moment and walk through this with me. Put your feet on the ground, okay? And I just want you to close your eyes and imagine this, okay? Okay, now I want you to think about a car, an expensive sports car, like a Lamborghini or a Bugatti. I mean, we're talking high-end now, Ferrari, all the really sports ones, you know? And it's fully loaded. Leather seats, the premium stereo, anything and everything you could want power. And it's all yours. You created it. It's bought and paid for. You have brought it into this world for you. It's sitting in your driveway, just waiting for you, completely fueled up for the day, fueled up with high-octane gas. And now, I want you to take the keys to that car. And I want you to give those keys to the 14-year-old boy down the street. Okay? And you tell him. Now you tell him. You can have this car and you can do whatever you want. The only thing I ask is that you bring it home at night and park it back in my driveway. And we're good. Okay? You can open your eyes. Now, what do you think that car is going to look like when he brings it back? Yeah, well, for that matter, I mean, that 30 minutes, 10 minutes after he has it, you know, it's going to be interesting, shall we say. And that boy represents our ego. That boy is looking at that moment in time. He's not looking out for your best interest. He's not looking out for your higher good or looking at the consequences. He's looking at that moment. I've got the keys, I can drive, I can burn some rubber here, I can do donuts, you know, I can turn the stereo up full blast, I can have my soda in the car, no problem. Okay? Ego helps us maneuver, but ego is about the moment, about the choices that we have right then and there, not about, you know, next week I'm going to have to clean this up. So, what happens? What do? We get up in the morning, we fuel our high energy, high octane body up, and we give the keys to ego. And say, here you go create something. Do what you want. You got the keys, take me for a ride. I'm ready. Okay? Well, you go for a ride. And like I said before, usually he does pretty good at getting us through the day. Then all of a sudden, he's over here doing this, doing that. The next thing you know, you've created something that you didn't want to create. And you panic. You go, how did this happen? How did I get in this situation? No way. I never would create this for myself. Well, you didn't exactly. You didn't have full control. The ego helped you out a little bit. And that's what we do. That's what we do if we don't set our intentions in the morning and look for our higher and greater good. And that's, as metaphysicians, we know this, but sometimes we just don't stop and think about how important it is and how much it really affects us. Now, I want you to think about your egos as like an accessory. An accessory to an outfit, okay? It's not the outfit, but it helps pull it all together. Or maybe that really cool option on my engine, you know? It's not the engine. It supports the engine, but your engine is your thoughts that get you through the day. It's the power that maneuvers you. And if you don't have control of that engine, that 14-year-old boy might. Okay? So we've learned that we really do need to stop and take that moment. We need to center, clear, and connect to God. Call God in and ask that your higher and greatest good be served for that day. And isn't that what Jesus did? I mean, when he came to this world, to earth, he had a brand new thought, a new concept, that we were all one, that we're all connected. And he believed in the love of brotherhood. I mean, he changed the human race. It was so big, his thought ran through our consciousness and completely changed us, changed who we are. And he showed us that we had so much more to offer, that we had greater actions and thoughts within us. We were capable of doing so much more. Thoughts impact every moment of our lives, every day. And what is it that's going through your head that you're sending out and telling the world? Because thoughts are energy. So that energy you're projecting out onto the world. What is it you're telling the world you want or you are? Well, let's look at that. Energy goes out and comes back. And what do we call that? Attraction. That's the law of attraction. So that's our thought energy going out into the world and coming back. It'll reflect back the frequency that we're sending out in like energy. And I guess kind of an easier way for me to wrap my head around it, I thought, is an example of a dog whistle, okay? When you blow a dog whistle, it's tuned to a certain frequency. And when you blow that, a rabbit's going to come jumping at your feet? No. Is a fish going to swim up to you? No. You blow the dog whistle, and who comes running? That faithful dog. Just happy as heck to see you. But what that means is that when we send out energy, lack energy, the response that we're going to get is from lack energy. That's who's going to come calling when we put that energy out for the world. And until we stop and take that moment and think about what we're changing, we're not sure what we're sending out. So, along with attraction, we have increase. And remember those gazillion synapses firing off? Everything we think about, all our thoughts, are increased by what we're thinking. It's coming quicker and quicker, this and that, and this and that. So taking time to set your intentions is a great idea. Now, what we focus on, we know increases. So think about the time that you had a new recipe and you wanted to try it. And you're getting everything together and you're cooking, and it calls for a little bit of garlic and a little bit of salt and some cumin and a little bit of oregano. And you're like, I don't know if my mom's gonna like it or my husband. You start worrying. You start worrying about it. It's like, all this energy's going into, is somebody gonna like it? Is it gonna be good enough? Well, there's the other aspect of work. It's Friday, and you're going through the day and you're like, you're asking, please don't let my boss come over here and ask me to run that report again. Because it's going to take me an extra 2 hours. Not today, not today. I've got other things I want to do. other things I've got planned. But if you truly think about it, we never let ourselves down, do we? We create exactly what we ask for. Where was our focus and where was our energy? Our energy was on worrying about the recipe not turning out, and of course it didn't. Worrying about not working over, and you did. So if we are that strong of creators with our thoughts, and we created this by not really thinking about it, imagine the possibilities if you stop and think about what it is you want. So I'd like to share a story with you. And it's one of mine. Back in 2003, I had worked for a company, and they were going through transition. The plant where I worked was going to close down. So they laid me off, and I had been there for a little while, not too long, but I had accrued several weeks of severance. And they called me in and they said, okay, well, you've got the option to go ahead and take a payout immediately, or you can stay on payroll. Well, I was in the middle of having some dental work done, so I thought, let me stay on payroll, and that way I don't have to mess around with COBRA. So I stayed on the payroll and finished up my dental work. And a couple months before that, Jim, my husband, and I had started a addition to our house. And this was one Sunday morning. It was the last day before I was eligible finally to apply for unemployment benefits. We were in the new master bedroom, and we were staining the window seals, and talking, and he looks over at me, he says, well, when do you think you're going to look for a job? And the truth is that I hadn't looked for a job the whole time. It had been 3 weeks. And of course I hadn't signed up for unemployment because I wasn't eligible. But I had put my faith and trust in God. I gave everything over to God's hands and said, God, I know that you are source, and you will provide for me. You'll bring the right and perfect position to me. Now, I didn't know how it was going to happen, what it was going to look like, excuse me. But I knew that it was going to happen. I just knew it with every fiber in my being. I thought about it, knew this was going to happen. So while we're discussing, and he's asking me, and I'm going, He says, you really need to start looking. And I said, well, I plan on going down to the Department of Labor and signing up in the morning, enrolling and all. And I said, but I put everything in God's hands. No problem. It's covered. And he looks at me with that look. And he says, well, God is not going to call you up and offer you a job. I looked at him and I said, okay, I know. I don't expect that, but I know I'm in good hands. And I'll tell you what, in less than 30 seconds, the phone rang. And we both kind of turned and looked at each other. Because it's all about timing, right? Well, I answered the phone, and it was a gentleman named Darren. He was the husband of one of my coworkers, and he asked me if I had found a job yet. And I told him no, that I hadn't even really started looking, that I planned on doing that tomorrow. And he said, well, my company is hiring, and we have an opening that I think that you would be right for. And I said, really? So we kind of, made arrangements for tomorrow morning, and I hung up. And Jim says, well, who was that? Okay, you guys, I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. I may have some karma, but I said, that was God on the phone. And he turned to me and gave me that look like, what are you talking about? So I said, that was God on the phone, and apparently he wants me to go to work at Kipper And I explained the conversation that I'd had with Darren. And he just stepped back and shook his head. And he said, you know what? I'll never doubt God will call again. So anyway, I took the position with Kipper Tool. And I worked there for several years. And it was a great opportunity. At the time, I had no intentions of going through seminary. But I did start a couple years after starting at Kipper, and I was supported financially. I was capable of taking all the classes that I needed to take. And they offered me so much more than I thought because I had partnered with God. I had taken that thought and gone into my heart and knew that it was so. And because of that, it created so much more than I could have ever created for myself. Now, I had the opportunity to meet a bunch of new people, to lead, to mentor, to travel, and have several different new experiences. And I was very grateful for that. I knew God had provided it. I guess the end of 2011, the company was having some financial difficulty, and I was no longer totally resonating with working there. And then eventually my department was dissolved, and I was laid off finally. I had changed in a position trying to kind of figure out what was going on, but I knew it was time to leave. And I thought, that's okay, I'm good with this. It gives me time to put my focus towards my studies and grow into what I was becoming, a minister. Well, a couple months after I was laid off, Jim became laid off. I thought, wow, this is interesting. And you know, the thing is that we had put money back, so we weren't in a financial spot. You know, we weren't strapped or anything. And we're kind of like, hey, this is cool. We got time together. You know, both of us had been working like crazy and seeing each other only a couple hours at night. Weekends were busy. I was attending classes. So time together was very minimal. And all of a sudden we found that we had all this time to find out who we were again. And we were filling out applications online, sending resumes off. But you know what? For 3 months, we never had one call, not one reply to anything. We kind of thought, what's going on? What's going on? Couldn't figure it out. We were enjoying our time off and having a good time. We were going here and there and doing things around the house and kind of learning things about each other. Well, one day, Jim came up to me and said, you know what? I think it's time to go back to work. And I said, okay. Okay. So we set our intentions to truly start looking and going back to work. And I said, I agree to that, but that means that we both got to go back to work at the same time. Because I was thinking, you're not going to leave me. Anyway, so we set our intentions, decided, okay, let's get busy here, let's get going. Following week, Jim gets a phone call. Hey, you know, can you come down and interview? Then he gets another one. I want you to come interview. And then a third one. So within a few weeks, he had gone to several interviews, had several callbacks, and next thing you know, he had them fighting over him even. So he had set his intentions. He had gone inside, connected with God, and was creating greater. And I received a call from an acquaintance, said, hey, we got an opening. I went down, interviewed, and I took the position. Well, 3 weeks after we set our intentions, we both ended up hired, 2 different companies, And we both started the same day. Back to work. Now, we didn't realize at the time what we had done, Not until after we had gone back to work and kind of back in the grind and things were going. And then one weekend we kind of went, how did we get here? What happened? And we looked back at the times we had together and how close we had grown. And we kind of missed that time. But we had appreciated it and were grateful for it. And then we realized it was our thoughts that created those events. Everything that we wanted, we were given. I mean, how special does that make you feel? Think about it when you want something and you actually get it. I'm reading these stories, to you, explaining what happened in my life, and the whole reason is to make you stop and think about your life. These are just examples of some of the creations that we're all capable of, that we each do every day. Every day. We create wondrous miracles within our lives. And don't stop and really think about it. Don't stop and take the time to realize that our thoughts are things that move us through our lives. Every thought is a new energy and a new idea that can create things maybe we're not looking for, or things that can lead us to a higher place. Well, I'd like to take a moment here and read you something out of the Aquarian. Jesus prayed, and he sat in silent mood. A voice of soul spoke to his soul, imploring help. And Jesus saw a woman on a couch in sore distress, for she was sick, nigh unto death. She could not speak, but she had heard that Jesus was a man of God. And in her heart, she called on him for help. And Jesus helped. He did more. He did not speak, but like a flash of light, a mighty virtue from his soul filled full the body of the dying one. And she arose and joined her kindred while they prayed. Her kindred were astonished, and they said to her, "How were you healed?" And she replied, "I do not know. I simply asked the man of God. I thought for a healing power, and in that moment I was well." The people said, "The gods have surely come to earth, for man has not the power to heal by thoughts." But Jesus said, "The greatest power in heaven and earth is thought." God made the universe by thought. He painted the lilies and the roses with thought. By thinking it's strange that I should send a healing thought and change the ethers of a disease or death to those of health and life. Lo, you shall see far greater things than this, for by the power of holy thought, my body will be changed from carnal flesh to spirit, and so will yours. So, who would like to go in and create some new thoughts? You put your feet on the floor. Take a breath. Father, Mother God, I ask that our higher selves be fully present in each one of us. I ask that a calm of light come over us and fill us with your love and light. I ask that we become awake and aware to the thoughts that are happening within our minds, and that we understand how to work with those thoughts and ego. That we take a moment each morning and connect with you. feel that thought process, your mind firing, creating greater. And those thoughts running down into your heart. And I want you to picture a beautiful energy, a ball of energy creating, swirling around in your heart as those thoughts grow bigger and bigger. And as that energy grows, I want you to stop and take a moment. What is it you want to create in your life right now? More peace, love, harmony, balance, greater relationship. Once you have what it is you truly desire, I want you to send that energy into that ball, that swirling ball, and see it combining with your thoughts. See it building stronger. And now I want you to ask God. I want you to ask God energy flow into this swirling ball, this new thought, this new idea you have for your life. And as the energies swirl around and become infused, they become one. Now I want you to see that energy going out from your heart into the world, preparing the ethers for what is to come to you. What energy will attract back to you. Take a breath and know that you have just planted the seed for a new creation, a new thought to reflect back in your life. Thank God and be grateful for this. Come back into your heart, back into your body, and wiggle your fingers. And take a breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I look forward to hearing some stories about the creations you've just set forth for yourselves. And I thank you all for coming this morning.